welcome to another episode of Head On with me, Jake, on RKO Radio. And to get us started tonight, that was the Feelies with the track Sooner or Later from their 1991 album Time for a Witness. And I've played the Feelies on the show before. I think it was like the second episode or something like that, so a long time ago. I played the track Away, and it was the last track of the show. And again, one of those bands that I've always known about, but never really listened to properly. Been listening to a bit more again recently, and it's such a brilliant band. Just wish I'd got into them sooner. Sooner or Later, the name of the song by the Feelies. I guess it was later. Better late than never, I suppose. They seem to share similar elements to a lot of the bands from America that I'm into around that time, certainly early R.E.M. And yeah, definitely need to get more because I'm really, really enjoying what I'm hearing from them. So that was the Feelies to get us started, and next, from 2019, we have She Comes Around by Susan. So that was Susan with the track She Comes Around from 2019 and the album As I Was. Susan is the name of the band, a three-piece band from LA, all-girl group, and brilliant track. And I've actually just got hold of the album as well, because I listened to a few songs. There's a great cover of the track Dishonesty on there as well. I wasn't sure which one to play. I thought I'd go with one of their original tracks. But yeah, really, again, another new band that I've really been enjoying actually. And again, I don't have too much info other than that from LA, the all-female group, and obviously very indie sounding and brilliant. Definitely going to be enjoying that album quite a lot, I think. So, from 2019, we're coming right up to date, and from 2020, we have Starting Again by Daywave. So that was Starting Again by Daywave from the 2020 album Crush. So released very recently, I think actually within the last few weeks or last couple of months. Daywave, it's like a project from Oakland, California. I think there's two brothers involved. Other than that, not too clued up. General story that seems to be quite common now on the show is that kind of go around the internet looking for inspiration, stumble across stuff I've never heard before, and then just think, wow, that sounds great. So definitely going to be listening to the rest of that album by Daywave. As I say, the track was Starting Again and the album called Crush. So next we are going, back in time now to an old-time classic. We have the 13th Floor Elevators.
You only know you have to go, but still
Reverberation by the 13th Floor Elevators from their 1966 album Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators. And a brilliant underrated band from the 60s, very psychedelic obviously, if not the most psychedelic band of that period I think. Fronted by Rocky Erickson. I think he actually passed away this last year. Bit of a sad figure, Rocky Erickson. Obviously incredibly gifted, talented, but yeah, a bit of an acid casualty from those days, unfortunately. But he left behind a legacy of fantastic music. His album Easter Everywhere is just one of the most beautiful items of music I own. One of my favourite albums from the 60s. And that track we just played there, Reverberation, the Jesus and Mary Chain did a fantastic cover of that in the early 90s. Quite faithful to the original, but it's still a really good cover. So yeah, why haven't I played them before on my show, I was wondering, and I thought about time. So glad to put that straight. And next we have Talking Heads with Cities.
Good points.
by Talking Heads there, from the classic 1979 album Fear of Music. Probably my favourite Talking Heads album, actually. I just love the sound that it has. I mean, there's not a bad song on it. It's just a wonderful album. And doesn't get the praise I think it deserves. I think most people kind of tend to go for Remain in Light these days, but for me, Fear of Music was their masterpiece. Now, I've played Talking Heads a few times on the show before, but tonight was a specific reason, and that is because, yesterday we had the 68th birthday of David Byrne, and today we have the 71st birthday of Brian Eno. So I thought, kill two birds with one stone, play a Talking Heads album produced by Brian Eno. And as I say, just an absolute masterpiece for me. I think it actually won Enemy's Album of the Year 1979, and when you think about the albums it was up against, you had Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures, London Calling by The Clash, Setting Suns by The Jam, The Specials debut. I mean, that year was absolutely ridiculous. Public Image, Metal Box. It was a ridiculous year for music. And I think we might do a 1979 special actually soon. That could be quite a good idea. But yeah, so happy birthday to David Byrne and Brian Eno, and that was Talking Heads with Cities. And now, staying in a similar ballpark, but a couple of years later, 1981, we have the Au Pairs with Set Up. So that was Set Up by the Au Pairs from their classic 1981 album Playing with a Different Sex. Has that kind of quite angular post-punk sound that I think For Music does as well, which I played just before Au Pairs. But yeah, I don't know, it's one of those albums that I just really remember quite vividly from my childhood. I always remember seeing that record sleeve in my dad's collection, in my mum and dad's collection, and it just always stuck with me. Quite a vivid record sleeve it has, and listened to it on and off for years, and I always kind of come back around to it every now and again. I think there's some really great tracks on that album. So yeah, about time I played Au Pairs and gave them their due, and I think that's quite an underrated song on that album, Setup. Everyone talks about Headache for Michelle, and the other one I can't even remember the name of, but Setup is a really great song too. So now back up to a bit more recent times, 2014 with a track, Archie, Marry Me. This is Always. So that was Archie, Marry Me by the band Always, although that is spelt Always, A-L-V-V-A-Y-S, but pronounced Always. And that is a band from Canada, and that track was released in 2014 on their self-titled album. And I think a really nice little song, that quite dramatic sounding, quite twee, very indie, I guess, very twee indie pop track in a way. But it's got a really big sound, and I actually quite like that. And another one I just kind of stumbled across by mistake, and I'm kind of glad I did. I really like that, and I think that's something I can maybe play when I get back to playing DJ sets out and about in Bari. So from one track I stumbled across randomly to another, and this is Phaser Days with the track Lucky Girl. So that was Lucky Girl by the band Phaser Days. Well, I think it's a one-person project. I think it's from New Zealand. And yeah, it goes by the name of Phaser Days. And that is from her 2017 album Morningside. Released on the legendary Flying Nun Records, actually. I mean, if the New Zealand indie scene is famous for anything, it's almost like it's more famous for that label than any specific bands, you could almost say. But yeah, brilliant track by Phaser Days. And the track is called Lucky Girl. And yeah, so the album Morningside, definitely going to be getting hold of some more of Phaser Days. Okay, next, 2016, we are going to Autonautic with the track I Know. So that was Autarkic with the track I Know from the 2016 EP Rotation, and an absolutely beautiful track that. And I actually, the first time I heard that was at a party, an after party. I'd been DJing in Edinburgh in Paradise Palms with one of my DJ heroes, actually, Duncan Gray. I played just before Duncan Gray, and there was an after party back down in Leith. And the guy whose party I think it was, Lewis, he put that track on. I thought, wow, that's just such a beautiful track. And still just stuck with me, even though it was very early in the morning by the time I heard it. Remembered the name of the track, downloaded it, got hold of a copy, and really glad that I remembered it, because it's such a brilliant track, that Autarkic, quite moving sounding. It's just quite emotional sounding. I don't know, it just has that kind of effect on me. I just think it's quite a euphoric type song, but very melancholy, very sad as well at the same time. So that was Autarkic, and now we're going back in time to 1980, and we have European Sun by Japan.
So cold in this luncheonette world.
So it was European Sun by Japan, 7-inch from 1980. I think, I'm not sure, did it end up on the album Assemblage? I'm not sure, I can't remember. Or maybe it was just a standalone single. I honestly can't remember, I probably should have looked into that. Either way, I think it was on the reissues of Assemblage. But one of my all-time favourite Japan tracks there, along with Life in Tokyo, would probably be the other favourite. But yeah, brilliant stuff there from Japan. And staying in a similar kind of area, we're going to 1983, and we have Living with Passion by Moral Support. Moral Support with Living with Passion from 1983, a Canadian act, and something that my old friend from Vinyl Exchange Records in Manchester, Balearic Mike, he got me into that. He put it on a CD for me many years ago, and I just love that slow motion chuggy sound that it has. It's a real chugger, that one. And Believe It Mike was really responsible for getting me into that kind of slow-mo disco chugger type stuff with a low BPM, and that's definitely a prime example of it, Living with Passion. Probably one of the first, actually, records that got me into that kind of sound. So it was Moral Support with a quite rare Italo disco track, actually, Living with Passion. And Moral Support from Canada. It's been quite a multinational show tonight. We've had 2 Canadian acts, I think. We've had 2 American bands. We've had, well, more than 2. We've had New Zealand, I think Autonautic from Israel. So quite a diverse, eclectic show tonight. And next we are going to 1978 and the Stranglers with Toiler on the Sea.
She left the hold unlocked. I had to find her dark. I was a toiler on the sea. I was a toiler on the sea. I was a toiler on the sea. I was a toiler on the sea.
Traced our steps, rebuilt the woman's ship,
I took her back up north. I lost her in the fog. I was a toiler on the sea. 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 I was a toiler. I was a toiler. I was a toiler on the sea. On the sea. I was a toiler. I was a toiler on the sea. I was a toiler. 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 On the sea. On the sea. I was a toiler. I was a toiler. 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 On the sea. 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 On the
Toiler on the Sea there by the Stranglers from the 1978 album Black and White. And seeing as last week we did the Kraftwerk special for the sad death of Florian Schneider, we also had the death of Dave Greenfield from the Stranglers. So obviously doing the Kraftwerk special, I didn't get a chance to play any Stranglers tracks, so I thought better rectify that tonight. Because the Stranglers, such a unique sound. People were a bit unfair in comparing him to the Doors, I think, who had a similar kind of unique sound in a similar kind of way, but the Stranglers sound is very unique in itself. And that was really down to Dave Greenfield, I think. So rest in peace, Dave Greenfield, who passed away last week. So you've been listening to RKO, and the show is Head On. You can find us on rkonair.com, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, etc. And just one more song to play tonight, and we're going to go with the Vaselines, Son of a Gun, from a 1987 debut EP. Maybe made a bit more famous years later by Nirvana covering it on Incesticide. I was obsessed with that. I remember getting Incesticide for my 12th birthday and listening to it on my headphones, and that version of Son of a Gun just completely blew me away. Honestly, the first time I heard it, I listened to it obsessively after that. Didn't realise till years later it was a Vaselines track, and was happy to find out that it was, obviously. So here to finish us off tonight, the Vaselines with Son of a Gun. Speak to you next week. Bye bye.
Turn around, round and round, about and over again. Gun, gun, son of a gun, you